To set up and configure the communications, click on the RP Sync icon. If you do not have this shortcut on your desktop, you can find it on the C drive, in the POS folder. RP Sync contains the three components of VRP's communications: fetch, send, and configure. Let's start with configure. Start by clicking Validate Tables. When VRP has finished creating the tables, click OK. Next, click Find Missing Tables. VRP will load the tables that are participating in the communication into the tables we have just created. We can then go to each table and decide which ones should be included in the send and in the fetch. Once the tables have been created, click Schedule to set up the times to execute the send and the fetch. Typically, the fetch will run during your hours of operation. Depending on the speed of your internet connection, it is recommended that you configure the fetch to process as often as once every 10 minutes or up to 1 hour. Many retailers choose to send information to their satellite locations only at night when all activity has ceased. But you may wish to transmit to your stores as often as once per hour. When you are finished, click OK. The next step is setting up the DSN. The DSN defines the list of all stores that are participating in the communications as satellites. The location that makes the communication does not need to be listed here. For example, if we want to set up communications with Store 02, we will set up the DSN as Store 02. Then enter the database name at that location, which in this case is VRP. Enter the username, in this case SA, and a password. Click into the empty line below to load the defaults. The destination folder must contain the IP address or a name that can be resolved for the store. For example, on a VPN, 192.168.20.201. Click into the next line to save. The DSN Store 02 must exist in the DSN list of this computer. Click Close to exit the DSN setup. To set up DSN Store 02 on the computer, go to Start, Settings, Control Panel. Then open the administrative tools. Double-click Data Sources ODBC Connection. Click the System DSN tab. Then click Add. Scroll down to the last item on the list, SQL Server. Then click Finish. Assign the name Store 02. Then enter the server name or IP address. Then click Next. Specify that this is an SQL server. Then click Next and Finish. Now let's return to the configuration and click Advanced. First click Add Missing. This will load all defaults of items that are missing. If any setting is already in the list, you will not add it a second time or override the current setting when you load the defaults. Please notice that FTP URL and Hub FTP URL are the same location, but they are sometimes referred to differently from different places. This should be a valid FTP site. We do not recommend using our site, but it can be used with some limitations. It is a good idea to keep all default settings in the beginning. You can always update them at a later time. Click Close to exit the advanced setup. Next, click Protocol. Here you will see two main tabs, the Fetch and the Send. The Fetch handles the scheduling of the files or tables that we need to retrieve from the satellite locations. For example, if we want to fetch the punch clock records, the RP punch can be set to fetch every 30 minutes. All numbers in the interval column represent minutes. RPTRS, which is the table for the receipt headers, can also be set up to fetch every 30 minutes. All of the intervals may be changed according to your needs. The Order column shows the order in which the tables will be retrieved from the satellite stores. It is recommended that you leave the order in this sequence, as it is extremely important that the tables are updated in a specific order. Change it only if you are an expert with the operation and the table structure of VRP. The same mechanism for the fetch exists for the send. If you click on a table, you will see the date and time of the last time the data in this table was sent to your remote locations. This would ordinarily appear in this gray area, but since we have not yet fetched any data, there is nothing to see. If you want to send the information in a particular table immediately, you can change the date of the last send to a prior date. This will cause the communications program to think that the next interval has been reached or exceeded, and the table will be included in the next send. For tables that have a specific interval, you may choose not to send them during certain hours, perhaps during the day. For example, we can choose not to send the RP Cust table, which contains all customer information, during the hours of 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Any other time, it will be sent every 120 minutes. Click Exit to close the protocol. To start the Fetch program to retrieve the data from your satellite stores, click Fetch. To start the Send program to update the data in the satellite stores, click Send. As long as the programs remain open, they will continue to run at the intervals you set up. The programs are shown in the Windows taskbar and can be hidden by clicking the Hide Program button. The Fetch is the icon with the letter F. The Send is designated by the letter S, and the Configuration by the letter C. The configurator does not need to run in order for the communications to function. Click Exit to close it. Click Bye-Bye to close the RP Sync setup.